Welcome to the Spirit Sisters podcast. My name is Karina Machado and I'm the author of Spirit Sisters, Women's True Stories of the Paranormal. In this podcast, I'll revisit the women behind my most unforgettable stories and unearth new tales to chill, intrigue, astound and offer hope. You'll hear first-hand accounts of ghostly visitors, near-death experiences, premonitions, hauntings and love more powerful than death. Whatever you believe about the afterlife, I invite you to open your minds and hearts as ordinary women reveal their extraordinary encounters. On a typically muggy day in the Philippines in July 2007, Pastor Eugene Balbon was putting the finishing touches on an orphanage in Pagadian City he was hoping would soon be ready to open its doors. Looking up from his work, he was stunned to see his collaborator on the project, Pat, breeze in wearing the ear-to-ear smile that was her calling card. The Australian missionary and philanthropist had been due to visit the following month, so this was a delightful surprise for the pastor, who sprang up to greet her. Sparkling like the open skies of her homeland, her blue eyes shone with vitality and enthusiasm. Pat had always been a human pick-me-up, with the knack of bolstering hopes and spreading cheer to anyone she turned her caring gaze on. That grin of hers was contagious. Welcome to Spirit Sisters, the podcast. It's wonderful to have you with us today for another mind and heart expanding conversation. Today, our guest, joining us from Queensland, is Naomi. What I read at the opening of this podcast is the first paragraph of a story called The Promise, which features in my 2014 book, Love Never Dies. It's a story about Naomi's mum, Pat, and the miracle that unfolded in July 2007 as Pat, who had cervical cancer, approached the end of her life, surrounded by her loving family. Now, get ready to question everything you thought was real, as Pat's daughter, Naomi, tells us how, in the days before her mum crossed over, she accomplished the impossible. Naomi, welcome to the Spirit Sisters podcast.
Thank you for having me. An honour to be here with you.
Oh, it's so lovely to have you. Just before I pressed record, I was telling you about how much I love your story and how it's a favourite of mine across the three books. So I'm honoured to have you here today to share it again for our listeners, and I'm sure they're going to fall in love with this story of your beautiful mum and her incredible powers of love.
It's quite a journey.
It's quite a journey. So I guess let's start by you sharing again with our listeners what happened with your gorgeous mum all those years ago. When was it, please, Naomi?
So it was 2007 from memory, and it was, I just remember July 9th was the day that my mum passed away, or I say crossed over now.
Yeah.
The day she crossed over. But so she had actually had cancer years before, and she beat that naturally through just different alternative treatments. And she knew she had cancer, but no one would diagnose her with it. They said, oh, it's probably just a cyst. And then eventually she kept saying, no, I know I have cancer. You need to look at this. And eventually they did and said, you're right. Unfortunately, you don't have long to live. So, and from that day, she passed away or crossed over 3 months after that.
Right.
And I think that for her at that point of life, she said, she was only 60, but she was like, all right, if this is my time, then it's my time. And she didn't really fight it. I think she had a peace in her with whatever God was meant to do with her life. She just put it in his hands. And so, yeah, she had a peace. And I think that, you have that moment where they accept it, and then there's that phase where they fight it a bit, the body fights, and then she went back into that state of, I'm at peace with this. And it was at that point things began to really change and things started happening. Obviously, her body had become quite weak, and she was in bed the last few weeks of her life. And how could I explain it, is that she would be asleep, and it was like she was stepping in and out of a consciousness. And 1 minute she would be asleep, and then the next minute she'd bounce up. And physically, that just wasn't even something you'd expect her to do with her weakness.
Yeah.
But she'd sit up, and she was saying things like, "God, 2 pesos," and we always used to laugh that, is she like bartering down at the markets overseas that she used to love going to. And then she'd describe places. I remember one day she sat up, and I was sitting by her side, and she squeezed my hand, and she said, "Naomi, purple pianos in yellow cornfields." And then she was gone again. And I was like, I don't know where she is or what she's seeing, but it sounds fabulous. Yeah. But it felt like it was more than a dream. So I don't know where she was, but it was great.
Yes.
But one day I had a phone call, and it was just a hectic time. There was a lot going on. But I answered the call, and it was her friend and someone that she worked with in the Philippines, Pastor Eugene Balbon. And he was quite frantic, and I mean, he spoke English, but it was still a bit, Filipino English.
Yes.
And he was like, where are your parents staying? You didn't tell me your mum was coming to see us. We didn't expect her. Tell me what hotel she's in. And I was really confused because I knew that they were both had originally planned to go there the month following. Okay. But, obviously she wasn't going to be going. And I know my dad had still hoped to make it. So I said to him, look, there's a lot going on. Let me call you back. I don't really understand everything. I'll just call you back later. Yeah. And I didn't call him back. I just had too much going on.
Well, of course, Mum was in her final days then. Right?
Yeah. And that was just my main concern, really. And family, and even in our family, my dad had a big church, and there was just a lot going on, and people coming in and out to see her, and yes. So I just kind of let that go, and then so when she eventually, about a week later, she crossed over. And eventually I got to my emails, and there was an email from Eugene saying, I didn't know your mum and dad were coming here. Please tell me what hotel they're staying at. She just arrived unexpectedly. Wow. And I was like, hang on a minute. She what? No, she's at home with us. And so, cut a long story short, we contacted him, and he had this experience. So he was working on an orphanage and ministry house with my mum, building for orphans and so forth. And he'd taken a moment to just sit down and take a rest from his hard work. And in my mum walks. And so you have to understand, this is at the same time she's at home in bed getting ready to pass away.
It's extraordinary.
And so we're not aware of this. But he's sitting there. She walks in like, I'm looking at you, like flesh and blood, walks through the door. And because he knows she's sick, so he's thinking, wow, you look great.
Yeah.
What are you doing here? You haven't told me, and, you're really good at preparing things. And so she said, I'm here to have a look around. And so he walked her around the place, and they had just a short dialogue about things that they were doing with it, the plans and what he'd achieved. And she was, in his mind, she was really proud of the work. And then after a moment, she just got up and walked out the door. And that's just strange for my mother as well. So he ran out, and he was like, Pat, what are you doing? Where are you going? And she just kept walking, but she turned over her shoulder, and she said to him, I must go ahead. In 1 week, it'll all be finished.
It'll all be finished. Again, sorry, we just distorted then. Say that bit again, please, Naomi.
Yeah, she kept walking, and over her shoulder she said to him twice, she repeated it, I must go ahead. In 1 week, it'll all be finished. And little did we know, or little did he know, it was exactly 1 week from that experience he had with her that she crossed over.
Oh, wow.
So I still get goosebumps saying the story. I haven't really told anyone for a while, but I get goosebumps because it's just, you start to realize she knew that when she was exiting.
Yes.
And she just had a few things that she wanted to do on the way out.
Yes.
So, so that's the story. And from that, I mean, that, like you said, one of your favorite stories, we found out that story has been shared in churches and places all over the world.
Really?
I don't even know how they got the story. Maybe they read your book.
Oh, wow. Maybe they did.
But it's I think people like the story because it does remind us that there is something more, that there is obviously something after that as well. So, yeah. And our spirits are just so empowered. We're just not limited to our physical body.
Yes, and I think your story demonstrates that really powerfully, because Pastor Eugene didn't see a wafty, misty apparition. No. He saw a flesh and blood person.
Yes.
And this is something that, you just almost want to shout it from the rooftops, because it's like, everybody look into this and try and establish how this could be possible. Do you have any thoughts as to how this was possible?
Well, I mean, in the New Age, we'd probably call it astral projection, astral travel. I even know my mother was a Christian. In the Bible, there was the Apostle Philip. And it's in the Bible, it says he was baptizing an Ethiopian man, and then he was suddenly taken and transported 30 kilometers away to another place. So it's the stories of this stuff happening from different religions and aspects. We've all talked about it. To me, I just believe that at the core essence of who we are is a spirit. And that spirit is not limited to our flesh. It's not limited to our basic understanding. And to bring up the Bible again, in Genesis, God says, I created you out of my likeness. It doesn't mean that we look like God, but that at the very substance of who we are is the same creative and miraculous presence of and substance of God. And so we have that ability to do these things. In my mother's case, I believe her body was so weak that, just so weak, but her spirit had become so strong. Yeah. And she was quite a strong spiritual person anyway. And so I just believe she just thought, I'm done with this. Body has no use, so I'm just going to go and do my stuff without it.
Yes.
And, I think, science will talk to us about, who we are. We're, the atoms, and that we're basically just this vibrational being anyway. Mm-hmm. So what's to say that we can't just vibrationally appear in one place and then another? And if you look more into science and you look into atoms and things, they're showing you how it can split into one place and another.
Yes.
So why can't we do that if we are made of that?
Exactly.
So, it's just, we have to start thinking outside of our physical binds, because we're so much more than that.
We are, and as you say, quantum physics does indicate that what we see as reality is actually a grand illusion. So that's right. So it's a lot more malleable than we've ever imagined.
Yes, exactly.
And I'd love to hear a little bit more about the kind of person your mum, Pat, was, because there is a sense that, I gathered the first time I heard this story from you, that there was something in that deep spirituality of hers that she nurtured throughout her life, through her work, her ministry, all of that kind of led to her being, to it almost being a case of, if anybody's going to be able to do this, Pat will.
Oh, yeah.
Because she did live in a space of love and possibility, more so than perhaps the rest of us. Tell us a little bit more about Pat.
Oh, you're right. If anyone was going to do it, she was going to definitely test it out. She wasn't going to make her exit just some quiet thing. She was going to go with a big flair, a big show, and give us all something to talk about for years. Even the fact that her story came into your book, and we'll talk about that later. But she was willing to let everyone know, this is my story. So she was at her funeral. People described her, they used a word that kept coming up, and they described her as tenacious. Oh. And I love that description as such. I would love to have that as my description. I don't think I'm as tenacious as her. She was like that. Once she got her heart set on something or her mind on something, she wouldn't let it go. She'd fight to the end for it. She was a deeply spiritual woman. She was a minister, so she had Christian beliefs. But she was to the full extreme of spirituality as you can get within that. but she just meditated and prayed constantly. And, she was so open to spiritual possibilities. She'd had experiences. I've seen her do miracles, and she would say that God did miracles through her, but I've seen amazing miracles.
What have you seen?
Well, as a family, she spent most of her time in the Philippines doing her ministry. She loved the nation. She loved the people. She loved that in the earlier days, the Philippines was such a beautiful, soft-hearted people, and just so innocent in their ways, is how she would have described back in the early days. And because of that, she said their faith was so strong. Mm-hmm. So she would say, God is here to heal you. And because they had just no doubt, they would go, okay, and just believe 100%. Wow. They would receive a miracle, which I think is interesting, because we're so skeptical in modern society that sometimes because of that we stop our miracle, when sometimes all we need is to put faith in something. But I've seen blind eyes open. I've seen deaf people hear. I've seen people get out of wheelchairs and walk and run, and just beautiful. The stories behind those miracles is something, again. I remember one time seeing an older couple, and I think the wife was deaf, and the husband, he had some sight issues, and they both had a miracle at the same time. And he just looked at his wife and started crying. Oh. And she could hear him say her name. Oh. For the first time. And so just those stories, yes. I know there's a lot of evangelicals and things out there doing crazy stuff, but when you experience it, it's something else again. Oh, you can't doubt, other possibilities when you've had these experiences. So that was her life. So she just, that was the type of woman she was. She just didn't have any doubt in God or in spirit. And even in her own struggle with her sickness, she was like, oh, well, if this is what God wants for me, then this is what God wants for me. And that's why she had that peace as well. Oh, so, amazing. Yeah, that's how I describe her, just that tenacious, but spiritually just a very nurturing. Yeah. But she would empower you. She'd push you to be the best you could be.
Oh, wow. What an incredible mother to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she was. She is.
She is. And we'll talk that. I know that there are stories that happened after Pat's passing. So we'll cover that too. But I just want to touch a little bit more on her work in the Philippines, because it was so extraordinary. So she was building an orphanage for these children that dwelled in, now stop me if I'm wrong, Naomi, was it Smoky Mountain, which was a rubbish dump?
Yeah, so Smoky Mountain, she didn't build an orphanage in Smoky Mountain. That was a place that she would visit. So Smoky Mountain is like a giant rubbish dump kind of place, and there were just children, just like even babies, that just didn't have parents. Wow. And they would, she'd take us up there. She took myself and my sister Esther and teams up there to, this is a reality. She wanted people to know. Yeah. And she'd say, sometimes you can't offer them a lot, but just a smile will change their life. And, the most amazing thing is seeing those children, and they were finding their food out of this rubbish dump. And it was just, the smell was horrible. The environment was bad. There were no parents. There was no one to love on each of these kids, but they had the biggest smiles. Oh. They were just so happy. And I'm glad my mum showed myself and others that, because it really puts things into perspective. And I think that's a lot of her work was about, teaching people that. But she had helped to build and open orphanages in several places. But the one that we were talking about was with Pastor Eugene Balbon, and I think that was Pagadian City.
Okay.
Yes. And that was also just a place also for ministries who came through and to stay and, work out of as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So was it just you and your sister, 2 siblings?
I've got my, I'm the baby, and then there's Esther, and then I have a brother Corey, and then my eldest sister Felicity as well.
Yep, okay.
I'd say because of Mum and my dad, because he's extremely spiritual too, we're all very spiritual people. Wow. I don't think we had any other choice.
Yeah. But I can see that would be quite a lovely way to grow up, because you've really from a very young age have learned about empathy and compassion, and having these experiences that most Australian kids wouldn't have a chance to experience, such as the children of Smoky Mountain. I would imagine that has formed, or has sort of moulded your life and the direction your life has taken. Is that right, Naomi? How has that changed you?
Definitely. It's definitely changed me. I don't, I like nice things. I like a nice life, but I don't put a great deal of value in certain things, because I've also learned that, one day you can have everything and the next day it can all be gone. And so it teaches you, to have that compassion and empathy for others, to think of other people's stories, not just your own. And I think, that it's helped with being, I guess, an empath, understanding where those emotions come from and understanding how I can work with them to help people, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I think any person, not even just being raised in my family, but any person I knew who worked with my parents and experienced what they did, by being exposed to places like Smoky Mountain or seeing miracles, you are a changed person. Even having an experience like Eugene, or seeing a spirit, people, like in your book, so many people have had these experiences with people who've crossed over, or seeing ghosts and whatnot. Yeah. Once you have that experience, you're a changed person.
Yes.
And I've had people who say, I don't even believe in this stuff, but I can't explain it, and it changes you.
Yes. It's like it opens.
Have you had, you're bound to have had experiences if you're writing books the way you do.
Well, what's interesting, I'm not one of those people that has many of these experiences. I'm not, and I think that's part of what drives my curiosity and, has led me from childhood, which is when my fascination with all of this first bloomed. I was very little when I was first, intrigued by all of this. And I think that's what's really driven my search throughout the years, and my curiosity, and, has been the foundation of so much of my work, is because I have sort of an innate understanding of the possibilities that these stories, that they hint at this marvelous reality that we can't even imagine. But I haven't really experienced too much myself. Like, there are small things, but nothing as spectacular, really. The first line of Spirit Sisters, my first book, which this podcast commemorates, does say that when I was 8 years old, I saw a man who I called the Colonel, the figure of a man who I called the Colonel, because to my eyes he had some medals gleaming on his, breast pocket. And so I called him the Colonel. And as I went on to say in Spirit Sisters, I don't know to this day what that was, who that was, whether I was really awake, and what is being awake anyway. But seeing the Colonel, having that experience of the Colonel, has really, as you say, it has changed me. And when you do have something like this happen, you can't go back, as you say, you can't unsee.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It can be just the smallest thing, and it can just that experience has triggered a path in your life to seek more, to find out more.
Yes.
And that's it. And I think sometimes we compare, like you said, it might not have been as grand or as your experience. Sometimes we compare, but they're like any moment with spirit, any moment where how big or little it is that we tap into that beyond the veil, in a sense, it's life-changing, and it is special.
Absolutely. Yeah. So given all of that, and given this extraordinary thing that you found out not just days after your mum passed, you read your email and then you spoke to Pastor Eugene.
Yeah.
How did that assist you in the process of grieving your mum? Did it provide solace? How did it help you come to terms with the loss of this astonishing woman who was your mum?
Yeah. It definitely helped. I think because we were it took away, there was grief. I think grief kind of hits you a little bit later as well. but it left us in this moment of excitement. It made it exciting. It made it like, oh, wow, did you know this happened to my mother? And it gave us more of a story to tell. And I really think that that's what she would have wanted. Don't talk about me crossing over or dying. Yeah. Tell them this, And so, wow. And something that's interesting in the end, I feel part of me feels that she did it because she kept a promise to Eugene that she was going to come and see the place, the orphanage. But it wasn't too long after that Eugene ended up crossing over. So he got sick and crossed over. And I feel that because she loved him like a son, in a sense, so like a Filipino son, I think that part of the reason she would have come to him is to give him comfort in the time where he was preparing to cross over himself, that he would have known there was something more, even though I know he had that undying faith. Yes. It would have just given him that comfort. Yes. And I think, sometimes when we step out of the flesh and we step into the spirit, I say it's like the place of all-knowingness. And she would have known when he was going to cross. Clearly, she knew when she was going to cross over. So perhaps she thought, well, I better go and see him because he didn't have a wife. He didn't really have a lot of family. So I'm going to go and let him know that I'll be there. Kind of that in my mind, that's how I feel that she was, as a mother and a spiritual mother, coming to see him and giving him comfort. And obviously it gave us a great deal of comfort and really made us laugh more than anything because there's Mum.
That's a really beautiful...
Making a show of herself again.
Making a show of herself. That's a really beautiful layer to the story that I wasn't aware of. And I love... See, this is part of the reason I am doing this podcast, because, the stories continue, the stories live on, and they continue to evolve. And that's a beautiful kind of sequel. Yeah. And it makes me think that his own imminent passing of this man who I had pictured in my head as an older gentleman, and now you're telling me he was young. That's so interesting. That his own imminent passing in a way primed him to be able to have this experience as well. So it was two-way. And perhaps it's the meeting of those two situations, that resonance between them, because in a way he was like your mum, dying, as we would say,
Yeah. And perhaps, maybe she picked up on that in spirit, that same energy. Yeah. She knew where that he was headed.
Yes. Oh, wow. So how long after this experience did Pastor Eugene pass away?
It would have been about 3 years after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did he get ill as well?
He got ill and then it just kind of happened real suddenly. I we knew that he'd been sick, and then it was just, it's like when it's meant to happen, they just go. Yes, it's like I feel like they just make their mind up.
Yes,
like all right, I'm done.
So it's like it was very much in keeping with your mum's personality too, very giving. She gave a final gift to him. And to you all, because as you say, like it changed the energy around. I mean, obviously there's still that grief, that I can't begin to fathom, but I can sense from what you're saying that it did change that energy. It introduced some laughter and some joy and some excitement, as you say, into the experience.
I think the excitement in death. Like she always used to say, "Death, where is thy sting?" And that's really kind of, she showed us that in her death. Well, where is the sting? Like. Wow. It took the negative away and it made it empowering. It made it an experience that was, don't be scared of this. This is actually awesome. And I can't wait to see you when you get there. Take your time though.
Wow, that's just it. It really does raise the goosebumps. And so in the months following your mum crossing over, both you and your husband, I believe, had some experiences with her spirit. Tell us about what happened.
Well, I mean, just in the months, I hadn't met my husband at that point. So on the night before my mum passed away, she said to me, make a promise, because I was planning to go live in the States. And she said, make me a promise that you will stay with your dad for at least 1 year and look after him. And I was like, oh, okay. So the day that promise came to its end is the day that I met my husband.
Oh, wow.
And then, and then a year and a half later we were married. I remember I went On our first date, I sat down at the table for dinner and a voice came to my head and it said, "This is the man you're going to marry."
Wow.
And people say when you know, you know, and I never really believed that.
Yeah,
but when I heard that voice, I was like, that's next level crazy.
That's funny that you should think
And
that.
yeah, but we got married. And it's been 11 years together, 9 years married, have a beautiful son. And but a few months after my mum passed away, so before I met my husband, she was quite active. I know that my dad went down to do a conference in Sydney and speak about the supernatural and God and spirit. And it was still Christian based. So, of course, these were challenging things. They believed in it, in Scripture we can back it up. So our Bible says to be out of the body is to be in the presence of God. So, you're still there, you're still going. But I remember he went into the night before he was meant to speak. Mum appeared to him in a dream and said, "I'm going to be with you tomorrow." And then the next day he went in and there were a circle of people and they were praying about the day ahead, and he joined them. And they said like a cold wind brushed through them. And at the same time, my dad felt my mum tap his hair down the way she always used to when she'd walk past. And then the pastor of that church ran in and said, "Bill, I don't believe in any of this stuff, but your wife appeared to me last night and said to me she's going to be here with you today."
Wow.
So there's that side of things happening.
Yeah.
The day that she passed, a couple of her girlfriends, they had received like a missed phone call from her around the time that she crossed over, but her phone wasn't on. So there's things like that.
Wow.
And then obviously I met my husband, and I think it was after the wedding, within weeks up after the wedding, he woke up one night and she was floating. He saw her floating above him and he freaked out.
Wow.
Punched in the air thinking there's some old chick in my bed. And then realised, hang on, maybe that was Naomi's mum. And then another time, one of the last gifts that she'd ever bought me was this beautiful big wooden chest of drawers, and it was in the end of our bedroom. And one night he woke up and she was standing there next to the chest of drawers, just staring at him. And I've never seen experienced a person going from laying flat to standing up so straight. I don't even know how that was physically possible, but I love when she spooks him because she gets a good rise out of him. So I think she did that to just let me know, I approve. I probably orchestrated this. And just that letting us know that she's still there and watching over us. So that's some of the things that she's done.
Yes, and they're wonderful stories.
Yeah, they are. They're fun. They're fun stories. That's what I love about it, is it's fun. It's not sad. It gives you joy to know, she's still there. And a few of my friends, they've lost parents or lost people that are close to them. And I say to them, there's going to be times when you can't explain it, but you just know that person just walked in the room and they've all broken down and said, yes, I've had that. I've had that experience. And, that I think that's comforting for people who've lost someone. Yes. That they do. Whether it's, people say a song on the radio plays when you're thinking of them, or just little things, there's signs. But the moment you become consciously aware that there's more than your little bubble of reality, it's like the magic doesn't stop. Yes. It just keeps coming. And the more you open up to it, the more they come through.
Yes. And Naomi, so I know that you are on a path of your own in terms of spirituality, and I was wondering what part your mother's crossing over and all of these stories, all of these events, what part this has played in your burgeoning spirituality and the path that you've taken with your business, Earth Vessel.
Yeah, that's been like a wild journey. It's something I never thought that I would do. Yeah. Obviously raised by ministers, from Christians. You're not really told to become a clairvoyant or a medium. And I don't really like the terminology because in reality, if you go to a church, they have the same person, but they call them a prophet. So it's wherever you are, just adapt to whoever you're with. But yeah, just the experience with her, and she started appearing to me and coming to me, and I remember when, I kind of have to take you back.
Yes,
actually,
please
and
do.
You don't know this story.
Oh.
When I was 7, we moved into this house in a place called Tugan, and it was at the top of the hill, and it was haunted. Like, you could hear footsteps running down the hallway, but no one was there. You'd feel brushes of cold air brush past you, but no windows open. And I was just, happy little kid, didn't even take notice of any of that stuff. And then one night, I woke up, and at the end of my bed was a little girl, and I remember her being wet. And it freaked me out because especially in your kids, when you see spirits, you tend to see them like flesh and blood. Yeah. So I remember just screaming out, and my mum, she was tough sometimes. She'd say she didn't like to get out of bed. She'd be like, "All right, you have to come. I'm not coming to you. You come to me." So eventually, when you're terrified, you're frozen. But eventually, I don't know how I did. Got the strength and courage, and I got up, and as I walked past the little girl, she got up off the bed because she'd been sitting at the end, got up off the bed and followed me into my parents' room. And then she sat there was like a built-in mirror and cupboard, and she sat into that and watched me. And I remember my mum saying, "Maybe it's an angel," and I said, no, that's not an angel. There's a difference. 2 weeks later, they found out that a little girl had died in that house and drowned in the pool. And that's probably why I had seen her wet, I'm guessing.
Wow.
So that was really, for me, the start. Something opened at that place. Wow. Something started in me. But, of course, throughout my life, I tried to suppress it because I didn't understand it. I didn't know how to work with that. I remember in my teenage years it started to come back, and, again, I tried to suppress it. And then after Mum passed away, it just, boom, it started again. And it was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to embrace it. And I remember praying and asking God if, you need to bring me some kind of mentor or something. And 5 minutes later, my hairstylist called and said, "I don't know why, but I'm going to this psychic development course, and I just thought you might come." And so I went, and within a month after that, I had clients coming to me. The person that I went to was like, "You need to just start now." And people turning up at my door, and that was the start of Earth Vessel.
Okay.
So I obviously became what they would call a clairvoyant.
Yes.
And teaching people meditation, and these days more so teaching people how to do that for themselves. So, because I always say to people, I'm not special. Everybody has that ability. Yeah. It's up to you to develop it, though, and open that door.
Yes,
and when you do, watch out.
Yes.
It's going to start.
And there's actually a lovely story, which you hinted at the beginning as well, about how your mum, the part that she played in bringing us together so that you could tell me your story for our book. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I love this. I feel like this book just doesn't have any ending like that. It keeps the little gift that keeps giving. Yeah. So I was on Facebook and I was scrolling through, and there was something about one of the, I don't know if it was spirits or there was something about you as the author. And I heard a voice come through so strong, and she said to me, "You need to send my crossing over story to Karina because she's going to publish it." And I laughed it off. I was like, "Oh, get over yourself, Mum. Like, your time's done. It's more about me now." But I did it. Great. And then thinking nothing's going to come of it. And then that afternoon, you actually emailed me back and said, "Can I publish your mum's story in the new book?" So I was like, "Oh, there she goes again."
That's so funny.
Telling her story.
Yeah, and she, as you said earlier, like, she's got a perspective that we don't. She knows, she can see the bigger picture. And who knows, as you say, like the ripple effects of a story just continue to reach out beyond what we can even imagine.
Yeah, and I make jokes about her ego in the sense, but really it's what her story brings to people is that comfort and the curiosity that, well, what really happened there? What what is there?
Exactly.
What else is out there for us to start exploring?
Exactly.
And I don't know if I mentioned to you actually. So when the book came out, I gave it to everyone I knew.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Sold them through our shop, and then told all my family about it. And then I have my brother Corey, who I absolutely love. He's gorgeous. At the time, I didn't know how he would take it because obviously I'd become what everyone's calling the clairvoyant and whatnot. So I was like, oh, I'm going to tread lightly there. And I said to Mum, look, if you want him to know, then you go ahead and you have to do it because I don't want to ruffle anyone's feathers. So the book came out, and his wife, Renee, was at the airport. She went and sat down. I'm thinking was at a gate or something. She sat down at the airport, and a woman got up and walked away and accidentally left her book. And it was your book, Love Never Dies, which has Mum's story. And then so Renee picks it up, opens it on the exact page.
Oh, my God.
That's Mum's story.
Oh, wow.
Takes some screenshots and sends it to Corey and says, I think this is your mum and the family is all in this book. Have you seen it?
What a surprise.
So she was using your book to get to him as well, Oh, wow. And I think, imagine what your book has done. Have you had any experiences like that? Has anyone told you things?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and that's one of the things that I love the most as an author, getting the feedback from readers, and they tell me stories. They tell me about what the stories have meant to them, and how reading about other people's experiences has made them feel comfort, has made them feel less alone, especially if they are grieving a loved one. And that is absolutely, one of the most gratifying aspects of the whole process is hearing from readers. And you do form bonds with them. And, there's a lovely gentleman who's in Love Never Dies, who every year he sends me a Happy New Year message, and he's just divine. His name's Ban. His story's in there about his dad, what happened when his dad was crossing over. And it's just beautiful. I love that so much. Yeah. And it is like the gift that keeps on giving.
It really is. Yeah. I don't think I've told you this as well. Many stories today.
Wow, great.
I've had a couple people track me down have read your book and have tracked me down through the music that I used to have a music page. They've tracked me down through that. Oh, wow. And we've been able to do sessions together, readings together, and bring some comfort to them with people that they have crossed over, and loved ones that they've gone over, and we've been able to work with them and give them comfort. So just through your book, that's my experience. People have connected with me through that. So, and just even the stories, I just think would just heal so many people, you know.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that drove me to become a journalist and an author, is this power that's in the sharing of our stories. It's a great leveler, and we've all got a story to tell, or two, and it's just it unites us, so it's really beautiful. But I just wanted to pick up on something you said there about your music. So are you a musician as well, Naomi?
Yeah, that was my my big passion in life. I still do music. After having my son, I took time out from Earth Vessel. Yep. And I had a dabble in my music again. I feel like these days I kind of dabble in music. Yeah. And the spiritual side of my work is far more important. But yeah, always do music. Love all different types of styles and genres that I've done. But I think that also for me has been a spiritual connection. It seems to, like with meditation, being able to sing and do that type of meditation music has been great as well.
Just trying to decline this. Sorry. I need to figure out how to...
I'm going to have a sip of my tea anyway.
You know what? Your music, we've got to pick up on this, because that links back to something that you told us at the beginning to do with Mum's crossing. She mentioned a purple piano. Tell us about that.
Purple piano in yellow cornfields.
In yellow cornfields.
That just sounds like some John Lennon film clip.
It does.
Some crazy acid trip.
It does.
But I've always thought when that moment, it was so, something about that moment I don't know. I'll never forget it because it was like she was telling me where she was. Like I'm walking through yellow cornfields and there's a purple piano.
Yeah.
So I've always said one day it'll be my album cover. So, and I don't know what one. Maybe I'll do a meditation one, and that'll be the cover.
Wow.
Who knows?
Beautiful.
But yeah, just that whole, even like she had that amazing experience with Eugene, but the little things before that, you know, like that moment. Where were you?
Yes.
What were you really doing?
Yes.
So just I always have that vision in my mind of the yellow cornfields and the purple, which just sounds so gaudy, a big purple piano. But, you know.
Maybe it will be an album cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's really, really amazing. So what about your little boy? So has he shown any hint of this deep, you know, this power? Because it is a power, but as you say, we all have it, but it's developed to different extremes in all of us. Has he shown any hints of mediumship or clairvoyancy? I know he's very little yet. But
he's not quite 2 yet, so I haven't noticed anything yet. He's bound to at some point, but not yet. I'm extremely protective of him when it comes to spiritual work and things that just even because at one point I was doing readings from home and I didn't want to do that around him because you open your environment to different energies and whatnot. So I've been extremely protective, but I found that children I have worked with in the past who have that ability, it's usually between 5 and 7 that it really starts to activate in their life more so.
Yep.
And that I think that's probably around the ages that they really start to understand the difference between the physical and the spirit realm as well.
Yes.
So maybe that's why it starts at that age. So far, not yet, which is good. Everyone's sleeping well.
That's good. That's great. That's great.
But I'm waiting for it. But I've had funny experiences with him. When I was pregnant, I remember I walked into a little New Age store to buy a gift for a friend, and a man walked out and he kind of fluttered out like as if he was floating, and he goes, "Oh, you're having a son?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." And he said he's going to have dark hair and green eyes and he's coming to be a healer.
Oh, wow.
And my son has dark hair, green eyes, and so I have no doubt, and it's in his blood.
Oh, wow.
He's going to do something in that way. So, and then before, I've always known I was going to have a son. Every psychic I saw said I was going to have a boy. Yeah. I'd always picture myself with a boy. Prophets had told me I'd have a son. And then when about a month before I conceived, I kept having this reoccurring dream. I would be walking down a boardwalk, and at the end of the boardwalk, I'd see my mum sitting with a little boy who was about 5 years old, and he kept diving down into the water and coming back with these little rocks and rings and gold and crystals and just shells and treasures, and I thought that was interesting. So a month later I conceived and I was having a boy.
Wow.
And then at my baby shower, a girlfriend of mine, Casey, ran a birthing way or whatever they call it, but it's like a circle of women, and they would give me a birthing necklace, and they would all entwine like a bead. But instead of using beads, they all came up with these rocks and shells and crystals and rings and gold, and every item that I saw in that reoccurring dream that my son brought up was on my birthing necklace.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you just think, what is going on?
That is beautiful. What a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And again,
I still have that with me. I'm actually about to get it framed so I can have it up in my house. And I still, every now and then, I grab a hold of it and I say, I call on the strength of these women, especially those days that are hard.
Oh, yes, yes.
Almost 2-year-old, I can grab onto it. Oh, give me their wisdom.
Oh, yeah. Yes, my goodness. And Naomi, I guess we talked earlier about how all of us have the potential inside us to, have medium skills or clairvoyant skills as you do. So what would be your advice to somebody who wants to develop these aspects in themselves? Yeah,
definitely. First and foremost, it's important to meditate.
Okay.
If you think about the most stories of when people have an experience or connect with spirit is when they're asleep or when they're resting.
Yeah.
And that's because that's the only time that we turn off the outward distractions and are able to receive. If you think about from the time you get up, we've got social media, alarms, TV, you drive to work and you're bombarded with signs and advertising. We are constantly just distracted.
Yeah.
So meditation helps us to turn off the outward distractions and be able to hear not only our inner voice, our own higher self, our spirit, but, you know, whoever else is trying to get through.
Yeah.
And then the thing you need to know is that we all have 4 ways of receiving. So there's what everyone knows, the clairvoyant, which is the ability to see. And you might see dreams or visions. You might see spirits like people have in your book that are like
Yes.
blood and flesh walking in.
Yes.
But you might also just see auras or symbols. And I always say symbology is the language of spirit. If you can start to put meanings towards those symbols, you can begin to speak with spirit. And then there is clairaudience, which is the ability to hear.
Yeah.
So some people will tell you they've heard a voice in the middle of the night say hello or testing, you know, like a mic check.
Yes.
Well, are you there? Can you hear me? And that is probably the scariest one because you really think you're going crazy.
Yeah,
then.
wow.
So there's clairaudience. And the more that you develop that, you start to hear the difference between your inner voice and what's receiving, like a channel that you're hearing.
Okay.
So that's an interesting way. Then there's clairsentience, which a lot of people have that. And that's the ability to sense. So if you were to walk down a street and you have that sense of, this doesn't feel right.
Yes.
That's clairsentience. And I always say clairsentient people are like a walking GPS. And if they learn to listen to the GPS, they won't get into trouble.
Right.
But if they stop listening, then you're going to get off track.
Yes.
And then the last one is claircognizance, which is knowingness. So these are the people who have, you know, they know that, like predictions, they know things are going to happen before they happen, or they can meet a person and they don't know why, but they just know everything about them. So it's like a download of information. So once you realize what is your predominant way of receiving information, then you can work with that.
Okay.
And everybody has all 4, but we usually use 1 or 2 predominant.
Yes.
But you can develop them all if you want to get really crazy.
Yeah. And so your predominant one is clairvoyance?
Clairvoyance and clairaudience.
Okay.
So, yeah. So the clairaudience started when I was about 16, 17. And I remember I'd wake up in the night and it would be like being in a bar. I could hear murmurs and voices. Couldn't understand what they were saying.
Yeah.
And it would start to get loud. I always feel really crazy telling this story.
No, please, no. I've heard this before. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I would just be like, I couldn't understand what was going on. So I'd be like, just shut up. Like a real crazy person.
Yeah.
And I suppressed that. And so then that came back later in life when I was able to understand and be guided on how to work with that.
Yes.
So, yeah, now it's nothing like that. It's pretty good. But, yeah, so clairvoyance and clairaudience would be my predominant.
Okay.
But then, you know, I swing through all of them like we all do. Everybody has, you know, all 4.
Yes.
So sometimes you might get a vision and then other times you might just feel a sense. And sometimes you'll find that you'll have 1 or 2 working together to confirm each other. So you might, if you're claircognizant, you might just have you feel like you know something's going to happen, or you know something about a person and your body will get all tingles. That's your body's confirming what you're receiving. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it sure does. And so what do you think is next for you and Earth Vessel in this year and going forward?
Well, I've taken some time out with my son, which has been great, and I'm starting to get back into things. So I will be doing readings again this year. I'm just easing my way back into that. I'm running meditation groups. I really want to keep working with people, teaching, training people to do it for themselves.
Great.
Because I don't want people to become reliant on me.
Yes.
I want people to, at some point, you got to start doing it yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I just want to start finishing some of the things that I started. I think I've spoken to you in the past that I wanted to write a book about, you know, helping people develop and their gifts and whatnot. So I'd like to get back into that. when I get the spare time.
Yes, well, just be gentle with yourself. You've got a toddler.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
So
Yeah, so that's going to take some time. And I'm not the most patient person. So I think you must have like great patience to be an author.
oh gosh, I don't know if it's patience or just sometimes you're just, for me, I know that it's what I do, writing, and I
Yes.
can't actually do anything else. Like this is, well, I can, you know what I mean? Like this is my
Yeah,
thing,
it's your
writing.
thing.
So
Yeah.
it's a compulsion, it is a
Yeah, I
compulsion.
heard
So
where was it? It must have been an advertisement for one of those master classes, and I can't remember who it was. A woman who was an author, and she said, "Why would anybody write unless they have to?
yeah.
You know, you're a writer if you just have to write."
Yes, yes. So if that book is in you and it keeps niggling at
Yeah,
you, you're a writer, and eventually
yeah,
it will find form in the exterior
yeah.
world.
Okay.
Oh, well, I just can't tell you how much of a delight it's been to catch up with you today, Naomi. Honestly, it's so beautiful. Is there anything else you would like to add before we sign off?
Oh, no, I don't know. Just people to realize, whoever's listening, you're obviously listening for a reason, whether you're curious or whatever the case is, just everybody needs to know that spirit is real. And like we said earlier, the moment you open your heart to it, it's there waiting for you. You don't need to be afraid. You just need, as long as you are working through love, as long as you have love in your heart, then you're just going to draw all goodness to you. So if you've got people who have crossed over, they are there, they love you, they're watching over us, and God is real, spirit is real. Just enjoy the beauty and the magic of it, and remove anything else that's, any fears or concerns about it. It's actually a beautiful way of living life.
Wow. Well, that is a lovely note to end on. And thank you on behalf of everybody. Thank you so much,
Thank
Naomi.
you.
And we'll stay in touch, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Sisters, the podcast, based on my best-selling book of the same name. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and will join me again next time for another intriguing conversation exploring mysteries and marvels. In the meantime, please subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. I also welcome your feedback, so please message me through my website, karinamachado.com, or find me on Facebook at Karina Machado Author. Perhaps you have your own encounter to share. If so, I'd love to hear it. After all, there's nothing more powerful than a story.